Between 2010 and 2014, fentanyl emerged as Canada's most destabilizing drug threat. Originally diverted from prescriptions, it quickly migrated into the illicit market. But unlike heroin or meth, fentanyl's volatility and potency made it lethal in unpredictable ways, especially when laced into cocaine. Thousands of users were dying without knowing they'd taken an opioid. By the middle of the decade, the crisis had outpaced law enforcement, and public health messaging alone was, well, just not enough. The only viable way to halt the poisoning was to seize control at the source, eliminate the middlemen, replace contaminated supply chains, and offer a cleaner product. This is where Ryan James Wedding's massive cocaine importation plan took shape. He wasn't peddling cheap cuts or maximizing margin through fentanyl lacing. He was delivering volume and emphasizing purity. That doesn't reflect a typical profit-maximizing narco model. It suggests upstream access and a desire to enforce standards. It could be considered a rogue form of harm reduction, offering an illicit but unpoisoned alternative to an already flooded market of toxic product. Flood the market with pure product, and cut product can't compete. In this context, Operation Giant Slalom, the 2024 joint US-Canada takedown of Wedding's alleged network, feels oddly precise. Only 17 individuals were named and 14 arrested. That's a tiny slice of what would be required to dismantle a billion-dollar operation allegedly moving 60 tons of cocaine per year. Which raises the question, were these arrests about decapitation, or were they a purge? Were these the core of the network, or were they those who continued to introduce adulterants into the supply? The government's claimed witness in the case, whom it accuses Wedding of having murdered, had a long history of trafficking dangerous, mislabeled narcotics. He had been previously arrested with 23,000 pills of ecstasy cut with methamphetamine. Coincidentally, the charge he was incarcerated for when he met Wedding. However, the witness was assassinated without protection in Colombia, drawing his actual collaboration into question. Instead, his identity may have been used to leak information about other bad actors, knowing they would both be arrested and retaliate against the alleged witness, closing the loop. That would make the arrests not a defeat, but a consolidation of control by Wedding, again acting to remove fentanyl from the supply chain and gaining credit for cleaning house. The agencies get a win, the cartel tightens its operation, and Wedding's rivals disappear. Clean, strategic, and bloodless, at least on his part. This theory also explains the strange silence that followed. There was no sweeping second wave of arrests, no extensive public messaging about dismantling an empire. Just a few extraditions, some impressive drug seizures, and a huge reward posted for Wedding himself. Of course, the reward itself places Wedding above suspicion in the criminal world, as well as reinforcing his mystique and legend as a modern-day Blackbeard. In this light, Wedding begins to look less like a fugitive and more like the sheriff of the black market. His may be one of those rare cases of an individual who sees how ethics and morality might align with profit, at least insofar as stabilizing supply chains, eliminating dangerous variables, and restoring predictability to a chaotic trade. Ironically, in a market saturated with overdoses, the dealer who insists on purity becomes the closest thing to safety. Operation Slalom. It almost sounds like a snowboarder named it.